Hi, everybody. It's a full house tonight. I'm Nathan, joined by Jeremy, Innes, and Anthony for episode 80 of Stat Check. Apparently, we're 80 episodes deep into this new thing-ish. I
And
don't
we
know.
stopped Fight Club at 20, right?
No, I don't think that's true.
That sounds about
It
right.
sounds right to me.
We had some unnumbered episodes, I think, is part of
Yeah,
the
but
problem.
night numbered episodes.
We also have a few unnumbered episodes as well.
True. So this is episode 80 of Stat Check, competitively metastabilized, because I don't know how else to say that word. We're going to chat about all sorts of nonsense. But first, let's get into how everybody's week was. We'll start with Jeremy, and then we'll cycle through our two big team event folks on the bottom of the screen. So Jeremy, how was your weekend?
It was good. It's fairly quiet, realistically. I just spent most of it watching Cherokee and painting and bemoaning the lack of paint on models on stream.
There were unpainted models on stream at Cherokee?
There were models that met the old 3-color and based requirement. Okay. There were not battle-ready models on stream, to the point where there were multiple threads started by people that I knew who were like, would you consider this bat-ready an event? I went, I don't want to have to answer that, but no.
I just never can tell what models are basically on tables anymore when I watch most streams. War Games Live is like the exception, who was at Cherokee, but
yeah, it was a War Games live stream. So like he has the high quality cameras that make it abundantly clear when a unit is just sprayed with Mechanicus standard gray, and that's it.
Look, it's just Mechanicus standard gray and then dry brush, and then we're done.
Mm-hmm.
It's all we need.
There was no dry brush.
Oh, well. What's on your paint desk then, Jeremy?
2 of these.
Are those Storm Ravens?
These are Storm Raven gunships.
Not fluent in Space
Imagine
Marine
not
vehicle.
already having 4.
I wasn't playing during that time period. That was during my break.
Stat Check is the certified approved Balatro background listening material. I don't know what Balatro
I'm not saying
is, though.
that the only reason that I'm on the show is so that I will stop playing Balatro for 40 minutes.
What is Balatro?
It's a new poker-based roguelike on Steam. It's very good. Enjoy.
Did you just say a poker-based?
Yeah.
We'll talk about this later. We're not going to derail ourselves too far.
Right.
Innes, what was your weekend like?
Well, it's been 3 weeks since I was on the show, because I took a week off. Then we had a week off as a show, and then now I'm here. So it's been a while. Obviously, I've smoked about 400 packs of cigarettes since we last spoke, as everybody can hear my voice, which is why there was not a show last week, and why I was not on the show the week before. I was in Poland this past weekend for the Pyra Cup, playing with Team Scotland. And we had a wonderful, wonderful time. It's really cool when you look at the amount of money you spent on a tournament and you realize that you spent more at the airport than in the 3.5 days in Poland, which is super cool. So yeah, we took a team out for that. We had a bunch of first-time players, a bunch of returning players, some people from the before times, from before COVID, back on the team, and we took them out, and we got how to put this delicately in a way that won't get me in trouble like last year. Our heads bounced off the pavement like a basketball. We might have won a round in the aggregate, but we certainly did not in total. So yeah, we came away with a ton to work on, a bunch of stuff that we are super excited to be in the progress for, and also the strong realization that, we played 4 Pool 1 teams and a really good Pool 2 team, and we're a Pool 2 team, so we shouldn't win those rounds, but it still hurts. Still hurts just a little bit. Just a little bit. But it was really awesome to get to play America for the first time, because we've placed around America for a bunch of years, and then we swiftly fell off while they did not. And it was nice to finally get around against them, because I don't believe we'd ever played Team America before as Team Scotland. So that was really cool. I managed to avoid playing England, which is obviously always preferable given that we play them at nations. So yeah, it was really good.
Anthony, how about your weekend? How was your weekend?
As far as weekends go, this one was pretty up there. We went to Pyra. We won, so that was hype. Let's go. Team USA doing things. So that was pretty hot. I don't know how much I'm going to be lagging during this because my internet wants to fight. So I'm just going to keep talking and hope that it gets through. Yeah, we won the event. That was pretty exciting. I took top scorer of the event with my bad army. We ran it to a solid 89 points out of 100 possible. So that was pretty cool. I got 4 20-0s and a 9 against guard going second.
So what we're hearing is that we're not going to see any World Eaters buffs in the foreseeable future because of your performance at Pyra, is what I'm hearing.
I mean, if you saw the stats for World Eaters, I feel like that tells a very different story than my specifically catered to experience. But we can talk about that when we get to the stats.
World Eaters.
We'll get into it. Is basically it. Yeah. How was the rest of the weekend, Anthony?
Oh, I'm back. Hello. Can you
You're
hear
back.
me now?
Keep going.
All right. The rest of the weekend was great. We had a really good time. It was cool to get like people to be a part of Team USA, like be functionally starters, right? Like you may not be starting in WTC, but you started for Team USA at an event we did. So that was cool. For people that haven't, been around the cycle a bunch and haven't been able to like play for us, that was exciting. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Our whole team did really well for the most part. We had like a couple touch and go rounds. We drew the last 2 because we had some stuff flip in unfortunate and unexpected directions. But for the most part, things went well. It was technically myself and 7 of the academy players, but I think 3 people on the team had won a WTC before. 2 people had been to more than I had. It was like pretty funny from that perspective.
Yeah, calling them academy players is severely underselling the roster that you brought. Do you want to go through who it was that went with you?
Sure. I'm now done lagging again. This is a fun game. Oh, it just came back.
You're good actually on our end. You're going smooth. It might just be us lagging on audio for you.
Oh, back. Okay. It was me, Zach, Kerstetter, Michael Mann, Quentin Johnson, or Rampage as we affectionately refer to him. Brian, who else played? That's 6.
Nick and Gagno.
Nick and Gagno. Yeah, the scrubs. And it's ruined my joke by cutting me off.
Washed up has-beens.
Yeah, the once upon a time we were good, we promised players. Also known as our 2 most consistent scorers besides me for the weekend and Brian. So yeah, we brought a pretty specific set like game plan to our pairings, which was basically that we were going to let me and Brian run Rorschach over people, and everything else was just trying to pin the custodies that were trying to kill me and Brian. So if you first defended with custodies against us, you got a handful of nothing. And if you left them later in the queue, we also scammed you with something else. So that was broadly the idea anyway. Scotland narrowly avoided that. I was going through it. I don't know how much lagging is happening.
Neither
Ben
you nor I
McJurek
said
is
Ben's
hurt.
name.
Yeah, it's true. Nobody said Ben's name whatsoever. It's okay though, Ben. You know we love you. You're just forgotten for this purpose apparently today.
I just hate custodies that much. We had 7 players and custodies.
Brutal.
I do not like that army. I'm going to an RTT this weekend and I'm not playing World Leaders even though I love them, because on the off chance I have to play into custodies. Yeah, we had a great time. Everyone did really well. People were like nice and stable for the most part, which I really appreciate. No one got 0s in some games, 20s in others, and it was just like a mess that was all over the place. Everyone like pretty much held the line, so we didn't have to get like too wild. There were some matchups that were obviously bad. But people did a good job of just like really keeping it together. Ben almost most of all from that. I think outside of Nick was probably our most like stable scorer.
I think Ben was like +/- 2 of a 10 in every single one of his games.
Yeah, he was a fucking hero. Man stood on objectives in his golden armor and got us some points. It was sick. Played the matchups no one wanted to. It was awesome.
Rolled 4-ups like a pro.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ben's worst game was into Golonka's Tyranids.
Yep.
And even
I
then
came
he got a 6.
That game was sad. He had a fight go sideways where he failed a battle shock, so he couldn't +1 a wound, and then he left 2 Maliceptors on 1 wound. Just depressing. But yeah, everybody did really well. It was really exciting. Our new merch is really sweet. This stuff is fucking really comfortable and fits nicely. The jerseys are dope. Like, thank you to Yokel for hooking us up with the jersey people. Yeah, things are good. Team USA life's going great. You know, it was a good chance to see some of the boys like as close as we could get to WTC levels of pressure without having to make them a starter. Because we had the balanced data slate right before us, so people got to do the whirlwind of prep and then all of the practice games leading up and then the event itself. That was like basically a perfect event right before selection. So good as it could have went. We won. I got top scorer. We learned about our guys.
Nice.
Easy
Perfection. I guess I'm supposed to talk about my weekend, but nothing happened during it.
You
I
probably
was
did
at home.
Science Man stuff.
I did some Science Man stuff. I did Science Man stuff all weekend, except for the brief period where I went and played D&D with.
Did the thing that was broken last week that resulted in us not having a show become unbroken?
Yeah, it's no longer broken. It's now working. So it's now a not $1 million paperweight. It's now $1 million fully functional instrument that does science things, which is awesome.
I hear that's good for the $1 million thing to do.
It is. Other than that, I've been playing in a TTS tournament in Scari's Discord, essentially, where I played guard into Eldari and made a mistake that Anthony would probably hate me for because I let myself get cute, moved a screen out of the way, and let an Avatar of Cain hit all my artillery at once. I still scrummed out an 88-88 tie in that game, only because of desperation. No other reason. Yeah, other than that, I played some D&D. I painted some stuff. I have custodes on my workbench alongside World Eaters stuff that I'm just kind of alternating between. Yeah, that's kind of the life right now. Nathan Howe. Nathan moved a Chimera out from a lane for the Avatar, and the Avatar went right in, just all the way through into Nathan's mana cores. It wasn't great. Apparently on Games Workshop layouts, the Avatar actually just kind of has free reign of giant ass lanes in it in some places. Yeah. And so the Avatar can, in fact, just walk in a straight line across without needing to walk around terrain.
GW layouts have discount breachable on them.
Playing Angron on those is the funniest shit ever.
Yeah, I definitely was. It was layout 3, I think, or layout 2, but it has just these giant lanes of just the 4-inch or lower ruin walls where people can just walk through them, basically. And so the Avatar just walked from deployment zone to deployment zone in one turn.
Yeah, why wouldn't you be able to do that? Fire it's a balanced stratagem.
True. He didn't fire anything. He just ran it. He ran it turn 1. And then I moved my screen out of the way, and then he got +1 to his charge and charged me with a 6-inch charge over another 4-inch ruin wall. Been playing on WTC terrain too much with giant ass ruins. Apparently, that doesn't happen very often. But yeah, basically, I pyrovored myself to move a Chimera to shoot mine bullets at something because I thought it was an awesome move and didn't actually shoot mine bullets. So congratulations, Nathan, on doing great things again. But yeah, that was my weekend, playing 40K and playing D&D and fixing science machines. So I guess we'll talk about stats, because this stats weekend was actually like wild from a participation level.
There were so many tournaments this weekend, right?
I think I remember seeing Jeremy's post being like, "What's going on?" and then realizing he'd missed 2 tournaments in France or something like that with like 100 players.
Yeah,
and being like, why?
So I had gone through and collected most of the stats, and I was doing list checks and updates on the first 1,000 players that were in the first 16 events that I looked at. And that's just singles, because there was Pyra going on. There were 2 multi-100 player team events in Spain. And there was also a team event in Italy, I think. But yeah, so I was going through them, and then I was like, "Oh, right."
Weekend, wasn't it? Rather than a singles event, which is I think it's technically it's a singles event rather than a team event, but it's a bit weird.
Yeah. But yeah, then I realized that I'd forgotten to take Tech Mini headquarters, go there, and we went, "Oh, yeah, it's not too." And there's 200-person events going on there. I was going, all right, well, yoink. And shout out to Gabby from France. I don't actually know I'm assuming that's their name. They reached out to me to offer some help because they've done a bunch of scripting on the mini headquarters site. So they've just been providing me with stuff now. So it's a lot faster.
Nice.
I have to do just a little edit pass on it to make it compliant with everything. Alex Towers, am I okay? I am okay. It was the busiest weekend of the edition, I think.
Yeah, we had
Like, there were
1,214 unique players this weekend. That's a lot.
That's more than LVO weekend.
Yep.
That's more. I think that's even more than LGT weekend. Which, I mean, people are playing lots of games and we get lots of data, so I like it. The data looks, I don't know, tell us how it looks, Nathan, because I've got mixed feelings.
Sure. So we have 1,200. Well, I've also got mixed feelings. So there's a caveat at the end of this that I think is really important. But first, we're going to go through the week of data. Then I'm going to talk about some summary data for what we've got so far during the post-slate era. Then I'm going to show you all a lovely screen share where you're going to inevitably see some of my my little bookmarks at the top and comments about them. But we had 1,214 players and 5,860 games 40K played that are tracked for our data. So that's only 5+ round, 25+ player events. Obviously, there's more 40K played than just that. And there are team events that are played that also have tons of 40K happening in them.
And also piles of RTTs.
Yep. So 40K has definitely hit back to its stride and is now sprinting again after the winter holidays effectively. So we're going to see some probably much more complete pictures, and the meta from pre-slate to now is kind of very much kind of gelled into something that we'll talk about and whether or not that's good in just a second. So for this last week, I'm sorting this all by win rate, so you're all just going to have to put up with it. At the top, we have Necrons with a 10.8% meta representation, a 56.7% win rate, 4 event wins, 16 top 4s, 30 top 10s, and a 2.06 for overrep.
Jesus fucking Christ.
We're not done though. That's not even the highest overrep so far of the weekend.
Yeah, but for it to make up 11% of the meta and to have a 2 on overrep is wild. That means they're making up over 20% of top 4s. Yep.
20% of top 4s. That means there are probably always at least one Necron in that top 4. Almost always. Thousand Suns had 31 players, 2.6% of the meta. They had a 56.1% win rate. They won 2 events, had 5 top 4s, 9 top 10s, and a 2.72 over rep.
It's quite high.
It is. It's quite high.
Has everybody just forgotten how to get Magnus again?
They have. There was a funny thing locally where people were like, "How fast can Magnus move again?" And somebody was like, "As fast
the
as
answer
as
is
fast,
bored.
As fast as a las cannon can shoot that far."
Further, actually.
Yeah, he moved with an advanced 54 inches, I think, total.
Well, he moves 16 base, right?
14 plus 2 times 3.
Oh, he's 14 base. For some reason, I had 16 base in my head, but that's just because
he was 16 in 8th edition when he could warp time.
That's what it was. All right. Yeah, because he just takes the +2 and then he goes 48 without advancing.
Yep. And then he can go 54 if he advances. Up to.
Yep.
Yep.
So the Port Surge didn't have a charge restriction in the initial pre-index days.
Terrifying.
I'm really glad it does.
It does now, thankfully.
Fortunately. Custodes had 102 players, made up 8.4% of the meta, which is... There's so many more Custodes players again than there were before. It's almost doubled, I think.
I'm getting really nasty flashbacks to 2 years ago.
Because
that's what players just stop.
Because I am an idiot, I thought you were about to say Custodes had 104% win rate, and I was about to be real confused. I was like, I know they're winning a lot, but that seems unlikely.
Those Alaris Terminators teleported to the next table over and won some other games.
That guy
and
up
then
too.
Came back. Yeah. They had a 55.1% win rate. They won an event. They got 2 top 4s, 12 top 10s. And actually only had an overrep of 0.33. I think there's some diminishing returns going on in this situation a little bit.
Yeah, the average Custodes player still sucks. But
they gatekeep other factions hard.
We'll talk a little bit more because I think this is a little bit weird, but we'll talk about it a little bit more in a second. Don't worry, guys. I've got more Custodes information at the end of this section. Grey Knights are next. 46 players, 3.8% of the meta. 54% win rate, 2 event wins, which is kind of nice, 5 top 4s, 11 top 10s, and a 1.83 over rep. I almost said 1.3, but it's 1.83 over rep. So Grey Knight's kind of popping up. I know they won the Milwaukee GT with like 6
Greg and
Red
Chap
Knight
won one
equivalents
in
or
Australia.
something. Oh,
Well
thanks,
done,
Greg.
Greg.
Oh, is it Greg who won? Good job, Greg.
Greg won one in Australia, yeah.
Good work, buddy.
Eric Forsman, one of Team USA's starting team last year, won the Milwaukee event.
Yep.
Yeah, Midwestern champion Eric Forsman.
That's right.
Who just to remind people, and
No one on Team
patron,
USA is from the Midwest, though.
no,
Yeah.
and longtime patron Derek got second place with guard at that event. So
Also
good job.
undefeated.
Also
Came down to
undefeated.
battle points.
Yep.
Eric's
So
list
good
is
job.
bad as fuck. That list is fucking sweet. It's very funny. Fucking
It is.
What was it?
Grey Knight
It's like-
Redeemer, 6 Dread Knights.
It's basically dreadnought spam, but
Yeah, it's
yeah,
got
Grey
3
Knights.
Helverns too, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know, man. It's just so much vehicle nonsense.
It's so funny. Anti-Fly 2-Up is goddamn hilarious.
Somebody said, oh, he must not have hit any swarms. And somebody else was like, but it was 16 D6 incinerator shots. I think that the list will be okay, guys.
Ow.
That list ruins swarms. It's not even close.
Yeah, I don't think it's close. In 5th place for the
But dude,
weekend.
hit him with your extra greens.
In 5th place for the weekend, still not out of the top 5 is Eldari. Although their meta representation is now only 4.6%. So it's actually gone down by half effectively.
Not low enough yet.
Hey, you leave the elves alone just a little. 53.2% win rate, 1 event win, 5 top 4s, 7 top 10s, although still managing a 1.5 for overrep. So, not out. Other event winners, Death Guard won an event and have a 1.56 overrep. Drukari also have won another event. 0.35 overrep though, and only a 50.6% win rate. So,
If you'd like to get a really clear picture of what Drukari does into good players, you should look at their results at Pyra.
Yep.
Oh,
How did that triple Void Raven list
Not
do?
good, buddy.
horribly.
I saw that list and was very confused.
It didn't even beat us.
Did it crack? Did it make double-digit points?
I can tell you right now.
Yes, it
actually,
did.
I did a little summary for all the factions. It did. It
Mhm.
managed to score a 13-point win over what I believe is Netherlands Orcs, a 10-point draw into was it England they played the last round?
No, we played England
No,
last
I
round, so
played
it's
Scotland
France.
last.
Oh, then
Scotland.
Nicola. Oh yeah, your Orcs
Those poor flash kids died, and all the answer to the planes went away.
got blown out, scoring 2 points each into Black Templars Iron Storm, piloted by Alex Harrison. 2 points into Eldari's Battle Host, piloted by Riccardi from Belgium, and Ptinico's Astra Militarum beat it 15-5. So it scored a grand total of 32 points, averaging a 6.4.
For the rest of the GT winners for the weekend, because there are so many of them, Chaos Knights won a GT. They had a 0.86 for overrep and a 50% win rate. Votan took home a GT with a 0.53 for overrep. Space Wolves won a GT with the Stormlance detachment with 25 Wolfen, and like so many Thunderwolf cavalry.
Wolf cavalry.
Yeah, and
Wolf, yeah.
all of the characters that could ride Thunderwolves and Logan in a sleigh. It was something that I looked at and I was like, I'm gonna close this tab because I don't know what to make of it and go away from it for a minute.
I hope that list catches on so I can play against it.
Maybe you could
or-
play it.
You could.
No,
Orcs also won a GT. They had a 47.9% win rate, 0.58 for overrep. And then at the bottom, we have Space Marines, who managed to take home a GT win with a 0.46 for overrep. And then Chaos Space Marines are the last GT winner for the weekend. They won a GT with a 43.7% win rate overall and a 0.77 overrep. At the very, very bottom of this,
I feel like once we go past 50%, we should start calling it the loss rate, so it sounds better. Like they have a 56.8% loss rate.
No.
look, I already have a hard enough time talking to people about how win rates and overrep work that I don't need to talk to people about how I'm going into the reverse and counting up wounds instead of down wounds now. Basically, it's too much work, buddy.
people that get count out should be put out of an airlock.
Who count up? I'm gonna talk about the very bottom of this stats, and then we can talk more about other things. Adeptus Mechanicus did the worst of the weekend. They had 17 players, a 1.4% meta representation, and a 34.8% win rate. But they did get a top 4 and 2 top 10s and managed to squeak out a 0.99 over rep. So they're just doing fine, guys. I don't want to hear any complaints. That 35% win rate is fine. Everything is fine. Just don't worry about it.
How's World Eaters doing?
We're not there yet. Where are they? Oh, they're there. They are. Okay.
Yeah,
Where'd they even go? 31 players, 2.6% meta representation, a 47.5% win rate, 0 event wins, 2 top 4s, 4 top 10s for a 1.09 over rep. So again, perfectly balanced in every way. Just fine.
Doesn't need any changes.
Nope. Rounding out the bottom 5, though, we have Dark Angels, who had a 43.4 top 4 and 4 top 10s.
This is pre-Codex.
Yeah, Chaos Space Marines, who had that 3.6% meta representation and 43.7% win rate that I talked about just a second ago. Space Marines, who are only 6% of the meta right now when you take out all the derivations of them, and a 44% win rate.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically Vanguard and Vanguard mainly.
Yeah. And then squeaking out of into the 45 to 55% balanced win rate bracket is Tyranids, who made up 5.8% of the meta, had a 45.8% win rate, no event wins, 1 top 4, 5 top 10s, and a 0.24 for overrep, which is actually just misery.
Playing Tyranids in singles is the most depressing thing you can do at Warhammer.
I know.
But
and continuing
pretty good.
In team, they're okay.
Continuing the trend of making me sad every time I talk about them, our Sisters of Battle, who are now just perfectly in the middle this week. With a 48.2% win rate, a top 4, 2 top 10s, and a 0.6. Just doing what they do, which is whatever it is that they do. So that's this week's events. When we look at overall since the slate, so like the last 3 weeks, essentially, including this week. So we hit our 4-week average. Will now show updated data on the faction win rate tracking device on the StatCheck the Meta website. Custodies are at the top by win rate with a 56.9% win rate and a 1.6 over rep. They've won 4 events, have 18 top 4s and 33 top 10s. Necrons are in second place on that, 55.9% win rate, 6 event wins, 26 top 4s, 55 top 10s, and an over rep of 1.84. Sisters of Battle, who have a 54.7, 3 event wins, 4 top 4s, 9 top 10s, and a 1.28. Thousand Suns, who have a 54.6, 2 event wins, 5 top 4s, 14 top 10s, and a 1.54 over rep. And then the only faction in the top 10 without a higher than 1 over rep is Black Templars, who have a 54.6, but they have no event wins. They have 4 top 4s, 22 top 10s, and a 0.79. Then we have Death Guard, Grey Knights, and Eldari rounding out the top 10 with Tau, who have a 52.9, 52.5, 51.7, and 51.3. And all of them have above 1 for overrep. Everybody basically after that has under a 1, except for factions that have very low meta representations, and then Astra Militarum. So one of the problems and things that I kind of wanted to talk about is when we look at win rate in this situation, right? We're really keen on this 55 to 45% win rate window as being the balance window. And right now, only 2 factions are above it. And then only a few factions, 4 factions are under it. And so you'd think, and actually I do think that the slate did a reasonably good job of this, is that they've kind of pushed things over the last 3 weeks since the slate kind of into the middle more. But when you look at event wins and you look at overrep, you see that there are still significant numbers of haves and have-nots kind of in that list. And so we still have some problems when we look at other analytics, and this is the reason why we should not just use win rate when we're looking at balance for the purposes of the 40K meta, is that we need to look at overrep, and we need to look at GT wins and top 4s, and we also need to look at, when we look at the StatCheck website itself, where you can look at these things, you can look at the 4-0 rate of factions. those are things that are important to also look at when we're looking at the health of the meta and like how balanced the meta is. Because right now, you have a bunch of factions that are kind of soaking up top 4 placements, and then you have some factions that are suffering from top 4 placements. So yeah, the meta is better, and I want to kind of like push that forward a little bit, but the meta is also not amazing, and there are still some problems that need to be fixed. Custodians and Necrons are kind of the primary drivers of pain points that we're currently seeing in the meta. But it is nice to see that despite the fact that 2 factions are kind of doing the best, is that the spread of event wins and the spread of overrep is much better now than it was before.
Yeah, it feels like there's still a lot of factions doing fine, even though there are some fairly hostile things going on.
The rock, paper, scissors nature of the meta doesn't make me particularly interested in playing in it from a singles perspective, because it feels like basically anything that leads you to a successful tournament win path is wildly not in your control.
To be fair though, Anthony, the last time you were looking forward to a singles meta was like pre-2022, so
That's not true. LGT was fun. I wasn't necessarily looking forward to that, but at least it was new. And the end of 9th was awesome. So,
I do think that the good thing is that the slate seems to have been at least relatively effective in tamping down some of the most egregious things that we saw pre-slate.
yeah,
Not
like
that all of the tamping down
TSM
was
and
equal. Some people, like CSM, got thrown out a window. Some people, like Eldari, got a gentle like slap on the wrist and aren't winning as many events as they did before, but are still quite capable of winning events, which is seen in the data, right?
Which realistically is where we wanted them to settle at the end. Like none of us wanted Eldari. I joke about it often, but none of us actually wanted Eldari just yeeted from the meta.
Two people do, definitely.
I
don't
wanted
know about all
CSM
that.
yeeted from the meta. I got my wish.
yeah.
And then I'm going to share a screen, which kind of illustrates a little bit of this point, just a little, just for funsies, because I know you're all.
So what are we
gonna
looking at, Nathan, for the benefit of the podcast listeners?
So podcast listeners, what we're going to see is www.stat-check.com/the-meta. And if you go to faction or you go to win rate trends at the top of that, you will see the same graph that I'm looking at right now. And if you look all the way to the right, you'll see the 4-week running average. And right now, where we're at is right here. And this has 1 week still in it of data from pre-slate. So next week, we'll have a complete post-slate picture on this trend. And right now, it looks like what we've generally seen post-slate is that factions have started to kind of just move towards the center for the most part. There are some
down at the bottom.
There are some examples of things that don't work very well. If you pull out Custodies, for example, they look like this.
If you click on the line in between them, you can highlight it a little bit better for the viewers.
Like this.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean,
it's not terrible. They're still in the window, and it appears to be
for now.
They're still in the
Right.
window for now.
of the almost broken for the entirety of until the first slate. Then they drop off until now, where they steadily jump back up to exactly where they were last time when they got nerfed. But everyone sucks more now.
I fucking hate that army, man. The way it just removes entire archetypes from the game really tilts me.
And then here's Titanicus, just so people can see it.
Those guys are heroes.
This is
there
the
were
win rate
two
from
this weekend at the same event.
50% down to 25%.
Less archetypes in the meta than World Eaters does. But
It's not even close. It's not even almost the same thing. The archetype I remove from the meta is bad players.
And then Eldari actually looks like they're starting to go under the window a little bit, which is kind
They
of
might
nice
have
for
finally
everybody.
figured it out.
Maybe. We'll see. Or they might have just added just the right amount of seasoning for predators that hurt Eldari. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I wrote a team comp earlier that didn't have Eldari in it, like on purpose. So that's progress.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
And then here
It's finally a point where you can consider not including them.
2 teams at Pyra didn't.
And then here are Necrons. Kind of just flirting with that 55% edge right now.
I think Necrons will continue to come down. People are kind of starting to get to grips with them a little more.
Yeah, they're starting to, but the big concern is that making up 11% of the meta and dominating the way that they can. They have could result in some issues.
For sure. I definitely I would like to see Necron changes, but I also think if we didn't see them, it wouldn't kill the game for the next 3 months.
I agree.
And then here are Imperial Knights who have started to kind of bounce back from
That
the
bounce
very
back is
low doldrums that they had
impressive.
temporarily.
I wish they
Correct.
went lower.
We know, Innes. We know.
I don't think they should exist as a faction, but that cat is very much out of the bag.
It almost wasn't. If we let them go down another 10%, they would have not been.
It
mean,
would
they're
be like
they're
AdMech
still
who fell off
bad.
the table.
Yeah, where are the boys in red looking? You know what?
This is Codex release, and they went down.
Yeah, that's a little sad.
That's rough.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Cog
People
Boys.
found a couple of cool builds, and everyone realized that you just have to disrespect them, and they lose.
Yep. Yeah, so that's just what I wanted to show today. I would argue that while the meta is better, there's still improvements to be made, and that you have to look outside of win rate in order to kind of see where those pain points are. We love win rate. Win rate's a great at the glance, like kind of determination of how the meta is doing. When you sum it together, the win rates are generally pretty accurate and kind of accurately portray the health of the game at kind of like a grand scope. But when you start looking at other analytics is when you start to actually see how things are moving and shaking underneath win rate. And then I'm getting yelled at by a Kiwi about how I don't understand how hemispheres work and how it's currently winter in other places and summer in other places. I don't know, man. I'm just giving up with that. So yeah,
No, guys, we don't have individual data sheet. Go and check out dirt sheets if you want to see anything on that.
Yeah, dirt sheets covers X and 1 lists, so you could just look at the prevalence of, because there are a handful of night lists that go X and 1 every week. Not many.
Yep. Yeah, Dirt Sheets is a great example of how you can kind of look at these lists and see what they're bringing, kind of what actually is being thrust about in the meta.
Mostly night players are being thrust about.
Sure.
Poor guys.
I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, so that's what I got this week for stats. Meta, generally better, but could be better.
Can always be better. I think that's unfortunately the challenge of a game that's constantly evolving.
And then, Jeremy, you said that you wanted to have a rules corner this week.
No, that's not what I was asking about.
Oh, no. What are we going to talk about this week?
I don't know. We'll talk about whatever people want to talk about. I mean, they should
If
talk
Frontline
about
finally developed
Pyra,
this
or are
plan-
they going to do that at Enter the Matrix in tomorrow anyways?
Oh, we can talk
And
about
yeah,
it.
we're-
Our Frontline finally grew a spine. We can talk more about Pyra. So many things we can
Yeah,
talk about.
Frontline Gaming finally grew a spine. This is actually something that I do want to celebrate. So I've heard through some anonymous sources that the Tau player who caused some issues at LSO and then caused further issues at Cherokee this weekend has been effectively banned indefinitely from Frontline events.
It's good. It's good to see some movement on stuff like that results in actual disciplinary action, so we don't have ongoing negative participation in the hobby from people. You know, you can eliminate chronic bad actors, and it's good for the game overall.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me is there being a path through, I don't want to call it redemption, but that's kind of the best way of putting it. Because ideally, everyone gets to enjoy the hobby, and no one's enjoyment of an event is impacted by someone's misdeeds or their ill behavior. Because that's really what we want at the end of the day. Is we just want everyone to have fun with toy soldiers.
Yeah. We don't want to deal with all the other stuff that comes along with, you know, toilet dice and stuff like that alongside the hobby. We don't need that, guys.
Exactly.
I was disappointed we didn't have any controversies at Pyra this year. We could have done so much more for the international meme scene.
You clearly should have just put Vladdy into Harrison every single round.
All right. So let's talk about Pyra Cup and kind of some experiences maybe of it just a little bit. And then
Hypercrypt is so goddamn boring to play.
So Innes, what did you play this weekend?
Dude, we got
Pyra
We got 10-10 Innis back, dude. It was really exciting.
2 rounds. I had fun.
2 rounds. Which 2 rounds did you have fun in this?
So I played 4 Catan Hypercrypt. My round 1 I played against the Leshu's Grey Knights, where she was like, yeah, so I just brought all the 2-up saves so that Catan can't, so that I can't die to Necrons. I just have too many units, and he sure did score 10. Then I played Ben Jurek's Custodes, and we stared at each other and we swapped home objectives, and we both burned each other's home objectives, and we sure did score 10s. And then I played Rude on Sisters, and Val and his Paragons, Val and her Paragons, shot, charged, and fought a Catan, and the net result was that my Catan killed Val in combat. And that was a fun game. Taking 0 from a 14 dice tank shock it's good. It's peak Catan energy. He rolled 1-5. That game I hit my charges is the simple, which was great fun. Game 4 I played into more Custodes. And we stared at each other. This was prior to targets. So I looked at it and I was like, well, I can't stop him scoring 50 primary because he's going second. So I better stop him scoring a secondary card. So I killed his secondary units and won by 8 points. 11-9. Very fun and interactive gameplay. I think I used Epic Challenge like conservatively 20 times in 5 games. Like my turn, their turn, because you're not killing a unit of Custodes, but I can kill a dude. He's the same as the other ones, right? So,
And he usually gives them something pretty good.
exactly. The unit's not killing me without that guy. So, I almost got Ben. His Trajan didn't fail the desperate breakout when he was wrapped by warriors, and then didn't die to the Overwatch when he was at 1 wound. I was heartbroken. But then Ben failed a 500 rollable charge, so it matched up. We both dropped our 5-point card.
Out.
Yeah, we both dropped our 5-point card to stupid stuff. It was great. And then my last game, I played Max from one of the Polish boys, and Max had one of those. When you have one of those games where you do something and you're like, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that," but I'm too proud to be like, "Do you mind if I like didn't do that like a little bit?" So he chained out a 20 model squad of neophytes, 2 guys at one end, 2 guys at the other, and then a full chain down the distance. And the Void Dragon, I looked at it and I was like, "You sure?" He went, "Yep." And I went, "Void Dragon Overwatch," and killed 14 of them by killing 2.
Oh,
Because they
pain.
just all died to coherency. But in fairness, though, it did result in him scoring engage, which he wouldn't have otherwise. Because his unit got cut down to the point where it was scoring engage now.
The silver lining that we're pulling out of this situation is quite narrow.
That's impressive.
It was really depressing because it then like unmove blocked the Nightbringer, who charged his Homer's unit, who then which then meant that my Nightbringer was in his deployment zone on turn 2, having walked there, and the things that you're not looking for. Nightbringer then the next turn proceeded to roll a 10-inch charge, fly over a brick of neophytes, to see the character that was in Guam, like 30 miles away, and epic challenge him to death. Normal stuff like that. So that game ended up in 19-1. We called that on turn 3 when his engaged unit charged my warriors and had to go into heroic range of the Catan. And I went, okay, heroic. And he went, I concede rather than asking for not charging there. And so we did that instead. The boy had a rough go.
Yeah.
I do have one thing to say though. He thought this was a good matchup, and I just want to question the logic for if you guys are in a good matchup. The secondaries you guys pick are engage in homers, right? When you're like, I'm going to crush this guy, what I'll do is engage in homers as GSC, right? That makes sense.
No.
Because
no, engage in homers is I'm scrambling for points and I'm just going to play the edge of the board and hopefully
that's
get
what I thought.
not 20.
But
so you're not going to play Necrons at WTC is what I'm hearing in it. Based on how miserable you were.
If Trouble Silent King stays meta, we'll talk. But
okay.
I'm looking forward to Anthony's story.
And this can play Canoptic Court instead of Hypercrypt.
Yeah, no more.
Do I look like Josh Roberts?
Frankly, I'm surprised that you didn't play Court over Crypt. It's so much more warrior-like.
I like Catan. They were like the only fun thing I did every game was like teleporting Catan. Every other and scoring capturing outposts with warriors while also move blocking, while also wrapping a rhino. That was good fun.
Yeah.
Um,
To answer that one guy's question, just because we're talking about it right now, Drukari and Genestealer cults that were taken by one team each did equally well. They scored 32 differential points across 5 games, which is an average of
Averaging a
6.4
6.
points.
Let's go, baby.
it's exactly where you want to be with your cool niche tech army.
Anthony, how about you? How was your experience at Pyra?
I had a blast. So I play a hyper niche, really specific attacker. So I get just like I'm the sweet special baby boy. I get nothing but like fatherly love and head pats when I'm at a team event as world leaders. So also Europe loves to do this thing where they're like, me, insert random man on a European team here, am the chosen one. Everyone else has failed to outthink Anthony's aggression. But me, I am super smart, and I'm the one that's going to get it done. To the point that I made this joke to the French player. I was like, hey, man, maybe you're the one. Maybe you're the chosen one that's finally going to move block and play the mission. He looked at me. He said, no, I'm not. I'm going to shoot you. And then he did. And fucking fair enough to him. That shit worked. I was really trending towards a 2 till Angron rezzed on 5. That's a very funny story that I'll tell in a minute. But yeah, so far so good. Round 1, I got the triple monolith Silent King. Florian made like a small deployment mistake basically where he put a monolith a little too close to the line, and he could have been a little bit farther back in a different spot and then moved his king out of the corner into a different like safe hole. That's not what happened. And I went first and I rolled Angron's advance and it was a 6. So he had one less monolith after turn 1. Which meant like frankly rolling the 6 was like humorous but didn't actually matter because there was a different monolith that I could have gotten to by killing the screen in front of it and then piling into the monolith with Angron. But Angron can only go in so many places at once, so he only lost 1. He shot Angron with the king and the other 2 monoliths and left him on 7. So then Angron killed the Silent King, who decided that this game was now over and exploded and killed 4 immortal squads, a spider, 4 immortal squads, not 4 immortals, 4 immortal squads. A spider did 8 to his other monolith that then died to Exalted. It like killed like basically.
What I understand, also 1 to Angron.
No, he did 3 to Angron. He took him down to 4.
So he did like 50 mortal wounds to his own army and 1 to you.
Oh yeah, he did again 3 to me, and I think he killed like an 8-bound or 2 or something. He killed a lot of his dudes. As it turns out, when you're within 6 for his aura, it's bad when he explodes.
You're within 6 for that explosion.
Yeah. So a lot of
Florian.
people...
He's such a lovely fellow. How could that happen to him?
Yeah, he's the best. He got scammed. And then his other monolith died in his turn because he didn't fall back with it. And Karn was like, all right, enough, die. And that was the end of the game. My second round, we played the Scots, so I played Nick. Nick is lovely. Nick was scared once I told him how far I could move. Nick then did not deploy like he was scared and got a whole bunch of stuff killed turn 1. So we played corners. I went first. I asked him if he was going to wall before I rolled my blood dice because that's how that works because this game is definitely written by the best and brightest. And he said, yes. Now, normally you would think, well, surely Anthony just stepped backwards and was like, waste your wall for a turn and then I'll go in later. That's not at all what happened. So I wrapped his Flash Gits truck in Jackals. I killed his battle wagon with Angron, with Exalted, piled into the 20-man with Angron, killed 18 of them, used the other 8-bound unit, piled in, killed the rest, and accidentally killed another truck with the sergeant of the standard 8-bound because I was like, 4 saves, and he was like, okay, and felt them all, and I was like, 12 damage, I guess. Goodbye, truck. Nothing careened, thankfully. That would have been bad. So, yep, that was that game. It was just like a little bit of outdone.
For reference, Anthony played Liam next round.
Oh, good lord! You guys gave him a terrible chance.
We wanted him to learn how to play aggressive.
Right, he learned how to get aggressed.
Man was the bottom scoring player of the event.
I thought you were going to say something very different, and I was going to agree. The
sorry, not the lowest.
Nice.
That's better.
Yeah.
That sounded like kicking somebody
Oh,
while
no,
they
he
were
was the
down.
lowest. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the
that's
wrong
so
number.
much worse.
This roller coaster can't continue, Jeremy.
Yeah. All right. After that, I played against Joker from Contact Lost. And when we played against the Polish, I thought this matchup was pretty favored. And then we deployed, and I looked at the map and put literally a rhino down, and I was like, oh, he's not scoring any points this game because he could just never hold an objective without dying, and it was just the one with just the two in the middle. So yeah, that was a thing.
Vital Ground with Chaos Knights can be a little rough sometimes.
Vital Ground with Chaos Knights into Eaters is just what the fuck are we even doing here? I deep struck an Exalted 8-bound for the first time in a long time in that game, and it was real nice to be able to rapid ingress and just complete a flank with them. So that was cool. WTC boards make that play in general a lot better, especially now that I have something to do with my second scout because I have a second Jackals unit. Fourth round was France. That was the guard player that shot me to shit. His first activation of the game was a Manticore into some Exalted 8-bound. And was like, all right, 4 saves. I failed all 4, then passed none of the feel no pains on those 4 wounds and lost 4 dudes. And I was like, well, that's one way to start this, I guess. So that was the thing. Angron rezzed on 5, and in Prios, that's pretty good. He rapid ingressed to score me at 10, and then proceeded to kill a tank commander to score me 5 on Assassinate and 5 on Area Denial, and 5 more at the end of the game. So that was cool.
How did he finally did the prios to somebody instead of getting priosed?
Yeah, that's right. That's the first time that's ever happened. The way I rezzed Angron was super funny. It was I rolled the blood roll at the start of the turn, and I got 2 6s, and my opponent was like, oh, so he's not back. And I pointed at my home field where I had 4 Jackals, one of which had an icon on it. And I was like, easy 6, and I picked it up and rolled the 6. He was not pleased. So that was that. And then in the last round, I played against the English, played against Tom. He was super nice. We had a similar misunderstanding about how far I could move, where I was like, yeah, I'm going to go 23. And he was like, all right, cool. So your threat range is 23. And I was like, that's not at all what I said. What I said was, I'm going to go 23. And we were playing in corners again. So I went first in corners against Orcs a second time. But I had talked about this in deployment, so we were able to set him up to deploy in such a way that he didn't immediately lose. He just immediately lost for different reasons. He didn't awe, and I threw my whole army at him because we were on corners. I didn't have to use advance and charge. I didn't have to use +2 move. So I took fight on death and feel no pain, and then I killed something in my turn and took sustained. And then he jumped out of his trucks and fought me, and I just had to write this game up. Hold on. In his turn, he lost 15 knobs, a war boss, 8 mega knobs, a mega boss, and something else to just fight on deaths.
A 4-up fight on death, right?
Yeah, I mean, you only need 2 guys to swing. My whole army was huddled around, a bunch of my army was huddled around Angron.
I'm just pointing out that is an insane amount to do on the clapback in his turn.
He had no invuln. The knobs fail, get hit by a 8-pound and just no save die. It's very sad. So yeah, that was that.
Good time.
I had a good time. That's exactly it. Even my worst game was at least funny. So I closed out the event, scoring an 89 points across the 5 rounds, and got top scorer. Woo! I joked
that you at least finally lost on World Eaters properly.
That's true. Yeah, I had that was my first loss with World Leaders in a teams environment. So we got one out of the way before we go to Eurotrash.
You get one, no more for Eurotrash and Alpine.
Oh, okay, my bad. Sorry.
So what are the next team events then? We've kind of talked about it kind of very vaguely for both of you.
2 weeks? 3 weeks? 2 weeks?
2.5 weeks. 2 weeks on Thursday you'll be flying, I assume.
Fuck. I go to Netherlands for Alpine Cup. I go to Netherlands for Eurotrash Cup, where I'm playing a part.
Have we told everyone? Have we told the world what our team is for that yet, or should we just do that again because it's still funny every time?
You can tell them. I am gonna forget clearly.
All right. So we have half of Team America. We have Brian Sipe, Anthony Vanella, Jack Harpster, John Lennon. We have David Gaylor from Team New Zealand. We have Myson and Typhus from Team Poland, and myself from Team Scotland.
So the other people just might as well not show up, is what I'm hearing based on
Look,
that
we're going to
roster
go
of
against
players.
a bunch of national teams, and we're bringing like half of Team America. If
Yeah.
they can't even contest, why are they showing up to WTC?
Yeah, if they can't beat half of Team America, what are we even doing?
It's true.
One of those players is from the academy. You know what I mean? It's gonna be fine.
Exactly. Typhus didn't even start at WTC.
That's right.
Typhus didn't even play at WTC last year.
Exactly.
Well, if he didn't
He was
start,
a
didn't
wonderful
play, right? He wasn't
co-host
gonna play for somewhere
instead.
else. Yeah.
He was a
Yeah.
he was a
All I
wonderful
saw Typhus
co-host.
doing at WTC was crying, and that clearly not because he was playing games well.
Yeah.
Love you, Typhus.
Typhus has not lost a game with sisters, and I was like, oh, and like teams or in general, and he was like, ever, and I was like, oh, okay.
And it's a gorgeous army on top of that.
Yeah, he definitely gave Quentin a bit of a stabbing. So yeah, that was that's the future, and then like 2 or 3, what is it? Some other small.
Like 3 weeks after that, we have Alpine.
So when is Anthony just moving to Europe?
Eventually.
I don't know.
Whenever we
dude.
can convince him, bro.
It's not me that needs
It's Anna.
convincing. Yeah.
Nathan, would you like to do the plugs?
I guess
'Cause I'm
I've
not doing
never. I haven't done these in like.
Or
so
Jeremy can do
long.
them, or Anthony.
Yeah, I'll do
Frankly,
it. That's
anybody
fine.
No,
but me, please.
Do you want to alternate back and forth who does them? Is that what we're going to do to just make it extra scuff, Jeremy? Or do you just want to do them?
I can do them. I don't mind.
Just do them, buddy.
All right. I will go through. I actually have notes for this, so I'm going to go to the right channel for it.
Oh, that's much better because I was just going to off the cuff do them and like miss like 8 things.
No, all of this is down in the doobly-doo in the bottom in the description of the video, but I'm going to read it out for the benefit of our podcast listeners and for anyone who just doesn't want to click down there. But essentially, we have quite a lot going on in this channel now. We now have 3 shows and then one that's currently on temporary hiatus. So we have this, which is the main show, which is Stat Check, live every single Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. UK time, I think. 3 p.m. Pacific, and if you're somewhere in the in-betweens, figure out your time zone. Coastal Elites will tell you what time you're in. Then we have Take All Comers, which is a new show. They've now had 3 episodes. They are a weekly show every, I believe, Saturday afternoon-ish Eastern. The time has been varying a little bit, but we will try to get a proper schedule on the YouTube page so people can follow that. So that is, how would you describe Take All Comers?
A bunch of guys talk about the Warhammer that they're playing at a high level.
Yeah, bunch of Team USA guys who are grinding it out at some of the highest levels of play. And occasionally going out and recording an episode in the outdoors, which,
It's cool as fuck, and more people should do that.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. Then we have
we do an our outdoor show.
Who is currently on hiatus, but it is, as some person described to me, the ultimate Dad Hammer podcast, and also the best thing ever if you're going to travel. Just listen to them for all of Cliff's travel tips. So that is currently on hiatus. They had their 20th episode a little while ago. They're just taking a break for personal reasons. That will be back at some point, we expect. And then we have Enter the Matrix, which is our team's focus show, which is hosted by Nathan, not this one, the one that's over there, Nathan Roberts of Team England, and then Pumbaa and Typhus of Team Poland. They should have an episode. Pardon?
Tomorrow.
Yeah, they should have an episode tomorrow. I think it's 4:30 Eastern, 9:30 your time.
9, not 9:30.
Okay.
Unless that's just our call time. But yeah, myself and Anthony will be on that one. We're going to be doing a proper full in-depth of the Pyra Cup.
Yep. That should be a very interesting show. And then, yeah, so that's what we currently have going on. If you would like to support all the work that we're doing here and enable us to do some of the things we do, like travel to events, help judge other events, do classes at events, then you can check us out at patreon.com/statcheck. Check us a few bucks a month. And that will get you access to our Discord, which is, I think, close to 500, if not more than 500 people now. We have some of the best names in 40K. We've added in a bunch more WTC players in the last little while following Pyra Cup. So there was some very interesting discussions earlier about Poland's NID swarm list, which featured a lot of big bugs. Discussions like that happen on the regular in there. So it's very interesting. We also have the opportunity to play in the Vibe Check League, which is... I mean, it's exactly what you think it is. It's a TTS league that's run by StatCheck, but you'll have the opportunity to play against some of the best players in the world by participating in this. We also have something that has been running for a while now called Miniature Golf, or Miniature Opportunity Golf, I think is what we've termed it now. And the premise behind this is low scores are great. So every single time that you finish painting or sell off some of your models, your score goes down. And the reason that I'm talking about this right now is that we have recently agreed with our sponsor, the Red Dragon Comics, Cards, and Games, that we're going to start raffling off some prize support in the form of store credit to people who participate in the Miniature Opportunity Golf.
There's a subtle irony there. I won't lie about us
I know.
awarding store
it's
credit
beautiful.
to people for scoring highly for doing hobby stuff who are trying to get rid of things, but giving them credit to buy more things.
Look, we all know it's a self-fulfilling cycle.
True.
Yeah, so check out the first of our sponsors, which is the Red Dragon. You can check them out at red-dragon.ca. Link is in the show notes. Yeah, they do a whole lot of amazing stuff for us. If you are a patron of the show, you get 20% off store-wide. There is a code on the Patreon page that you can find there. Alex Towers, Red Dragon handing out handicaps for Miniature Opportunity Golf, pretty much. And then following that, our other sponsors are Wayland Yutani. They are the ones that produced all of the terrain for the WTC. They've partnered with us. We have a discount code in the description. I think it's StatCheck5, but which will get you 5% off your purchase, and then kick back a little bit to the show. Yeah, go check them out. And then lastly, but certainly not leastly, we have Saltire Games. They are, I believe, Innis's home store, or close to it. Anyways, AJ there does some absolutely fantastic work. Go check out especially his, I should really have one with me, but his little gauges for measuring and deploying and all of that. It's just lovely laser cut stuff. Go support them. He supports us. Yeah, keep it going.
They even did our pairing cards for Pyra Cup.
Those are really nice pairing cards. And then, last but not least, there are a few of us here that offer coaching. So myself, Innis, and then Typhus from Enter the Matrix all offer coaching at various levels of the game. If you're interested in that, check out stat-check.com/coaching. Did I miss anything?
You got everything. Good job, buddy.
New Vibe Check will be starting up in a couple of weeks. Announcement should for the rules pack and all that should be tomorrow. Once I figure out this prize support for the last one, because I've been putting that off for goddamn ages.
And we do have prize support for all of our attorneys on our TTS leagues. So
yeah,
they are
again generously donated by Dan over at the Red Dragon.
Yep. So come possibly win some store credit, for funsies.
Maybe play against Innis because he's playing 18 chicken walkers.
It's true.
Never again, dude. Never again.
That was the worst.
So we are going to move into show questions, and so there is another benefit for joining the Patreon, which is that if you join the Patreon, you can ask a question in the show questions thread for this week, and then we will most definitely get to it. Otherwise, you can also super chat your question in the YouTube chat, and we will also most definitely get to it. We have also filtered out questions as we've been going, and we will try to get to those questions. But if this hits 2 hours, we probably won't get to them because we're going to do those last. And we also still have show questions from last week that we need to get through. So actually, I will start with the show questions from last week, and we're going to see how far we get because this is going to become...
We are going to do something new here, and I forgot to mention it to Nathan ahead of time. You're going to read the question, and I'm going to post it so that we have it on the bottom so that when people are watching us, they know what we're talking about.
All right. So we're going to start with the February 20th questions real quick. And the first question is from John Johnston. It says, question for Innis. Gun to your head, you have to take a Norn to a GT. What's the list idea?
I have a reasonable invasion fleet list with a Norton in it right now. I will very quickly build it up. I'm going to run through it in fast time, so you'll just have to keep up. It is Nexus. We have a Hive Tyrant with -1 damage, a Neuro Tyrant with the +1 strength AP, 2x10 Gargoyles, a Biovore, 2 X-Screens, 2 Neurolictors, 2 Assimilators, an Emissary, 2 Pyrovores, and 2 Squads of Rippers. 2,000 points on the nose. It's completely fine.
Jeremy, you forgot to put the question up on the screen.
So, great list, but I'm sorry, I couldn't stay focused. I put the picture in a backstage chat. I put that question in and hit enter, and YouTube rejected it.
Cool.
It thought it was
gun to your
spam.
head.
I love it.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably, yeah. All right, we're going to try this again with the second question, which is from McWerp. Which other show has the best name, and why is it Enter the Matrix? I was actually going to say that Take All Comers has a great name, and I really like their logo quite a bit.
Enter the Matrix has the best name because I named it, obviously.
Yeah, it's not even close.
Reasonable. I do like X and One a lot, actually, as well.
That'll all be good.
Yeah.
I will admit that when they were coming on to the network, Take All Comers hosts, and they mentioned that all of our shows have some kind of weird game name thing going, and none of us had noticed that we were doing that.
All game terms that you would use to describe 40k, but that aren't explicitly 40k terms in the way that something like Rapid Fire would be.
Yeah.
So like you can have a stat check list, you can be an X and One player, you can bring a Take All Comers list, but none of them are like in the rulebook 40k terms, which was never something we had gotten onto, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was really funny that all of us kind of paused at that moment and we're like, I guess that's true. The next question is from
genius.
It's true. Is from Doug, which says, hi, Anthony. Now that Space Wolves are the same thing as your possessed to bile list, how do you fill your list after maxing the furry boys, and have you rocked them at any GTs recently?
There is no chance I would play Space Wolves. I have like an old, like from when I very first started Grudge against Space Wolves. So the odds that I play them are extraordinarily low. But if I was going to write that list, I would max out on Wolfen, and then I would go to the top right corner in the app where there's the 3 buttons and hit delete list and play something else.
And then this next question has a visual aid. So I'm going to pull up the visual aid real quick. It's going to take me just a second. So this is the visual aid that I was provided with. And the question says, follow up. Do you have any plans on how to manage dice rolling while wearing big fuzzy paw gloves?
It's a really good question. I think you should answer that one.
All of the answers that I'm coming up with end with like a canceled stat check, so we should just move on.
Okay, we're going to move on from this question. All right, Frank asks, after a few weeks of new meta past us, what's been hot and not? And then has anything surprised you?
CSM really suck. Like, really suck.
But that doesn't surprise me.
I thought they'd be okay.
They got
and they
kicked
really
in the
suck
nuts so hard by those nerfs.
The way CSM is bad is definitely more than I expected. I also think Eldar is not that good.
I think they're fine now.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I think they can do a bunch of fucked up stuff. I don't know that it translates to being enough.
It's definitely not going to be the same, I don't think. But there's like a core Eldar group who are still going to win events.
Yeah.
Templar talk. I don't know if you have this question up and ready, Jeremy. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Gladius versus... This is also from Frank. Gladius versus Righteous Crusaders on which is the better singles build. Gladius can make the case for being the stronger list, but Crusaders could make the case for the more forgiving and therefore easier build. Just interested in your thoughts. Would you prefer Gladius or would you prefer Righteous Crusaders?
Gladius every day of the week. Righteous is like big, I don't control my tournament energy.
It's also very like, I know this is worse, so I'm just accepting to play it because it's what I feel like doing. The list that the polls played this weekend was interesting, but also ran out of time. Both games I watched it by top of 2. So I think that rolling feel no pains for those blobs might just take a little bit too much time.
And then there's a follow-up to this question from Doug, which is Ironstorm ? Instead of Ironstorm instead of Gladius or Righteous Crusaders.
I definitely prefer Gladius to Ironstorm, but teach their own.
I like guns.
Guns are good.
I feel like in the shooting edition, the guns are better. But
I don't know that I'd call it the shooting edition anymore.
I don't think I would either. But guns are still really good.
Yeah.
That's a discussion for a little bit later. Maybe next episode we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Sam Lemon asks a question because we have so many questions. With Pyra Cup this weekend, a number of players will likely be playing in their first international teams event and against people of a different caliber to normal. What advice do you give to these newbies approaching such a tournament?
We had a lot of that.
Godspeed.
It's definitely like a conversation about expectation, right? Especially for like the American players. Our country is real powerful when you consolidate its power, but we're very spread thin over the whole of the United States. So a lot of our players on our roster are very used to being 5-0. And there are definitely people that got a new and exciting experience of losing several games by quite a significant margin that they may or may not, normally experience when they play games. So it was like I said, Pyra is perfect for testing the new guys for a lot of reasons, but one of them is that you get to throw them directly into the fire and be like, well, let's see how you do. Because Sean also was there and was just non-playing captain, so he just stood near them and was like, interesting, and then would walk away. So
that's strong, rude, choosing your dice results for you energy.
Yeah. He's also picked up the use of the term skill issue when someone rolls badly, which is terrible for all of us.
No.
So
I'm not sure Quentin will ever forgive him for what he said to him and Nick.
I mean, that was your fault. That was fine in a vacuum, and then you made it awful.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, most of it's just like, hey man, like you got to have a conversation about expectations with the guys, right? Like, hey, this is a new thing. This is all national teams. Like, none of the people you play here, for the most part, will be like duds. There's not going to be like anyone that just has no idea what's going on. So like, play accordingly.
Makes sense. John asks, since I'm on the next question now that the lists are live, any odd choices by teams? What's up with that lone GSC list and that Drukhari list are the two follow-up questions.
There were some lists that are just bad.
Yeah. A lot of people were experimenting. Some things just aren't very good.
I mean, experiments fail. Take it from a scientist. Sometimes you can be experimenting with something and it just goes terribly, horribly
honestly,
wrong.
Pyra Cup is the perfect place to do that experimentation because what's the best word?
The stakes are non-existent.
Yeah, the stakes are non-existent.
That makes sense. Tim the Weird Boy asks, Boom Deck of Snaz Wagons. What the fuck is up with that?
It's just a tight little high, like decent OC, -1 to hit aura, doesn't immediately die to indirect, has assault and grenade keywords.
It has a grenade keyword?
Yeah, there's a guy out the side throwing a Molotov.
I love it.
It gets grenades. It also does tank shocks okay.
Yeah. I mean,
it'd just be doing a bit of stuff.
Yeah, it's the Celeste of orcs. It does a lot of nothing.
All right, and then Alex W asks a really good question, which is, I'll be judging an event for the first time in a couple weeks. Are there any resources you'd recommend I review beyond the relevant FAQs, etc.?
Anytime someone has a question, just message it to Curie.
Not entirely true, but I will help. If you want to have a sit-down chat about this, message me. I think Alex has already slid into my DMs. There's been a few people over the last couple of weeks that have. If you're looking to start running events and you want to know a little bit more, feel free to DM me. I try to respond to everyone that DMs me about events. I have now realized that I should just write that article about running events that everyone's been asking for. So that will
DM it to Nathan. Nathan will DM it to Curie.
I mean, you can also DM me questions, but I might not answer them in the right way or correctly.
There's a bunch of
And-
articles from Frontline about how not to judge, how not to run an event.
I will also say, like, the biggest thing that I've learned while judging is that sometimes you just need to tell a table to read their rule. You don't have to memorize FAQs. You don't have to memorize every data sheet. Sometimes you just need to ask players. And this is what I do 90% of times when I approach a table and they have a question. I'm like, what does the rule say? And then 9 times out of 10, that fixes the problem. And then 10% of the time, you have to dig through your brain for FAQ information. And
I
then
mean, my
answer it
first
like
question, whenever someone asks me a rules question, is what does your rule say? And have them read it to me. Because usually by the time they get about 3/4 of the way through, it's, oh, I didn't read that. Okay, thank you.
Yep. And some people will
That's
ask other
90%
questions.
of issues at the table. There's 5% where it's, hey, can you measure this? Can I see this? What's this charge? Does this charge make it? Because we forgot to measure before I rolled it, and now it's really tight and contentious. And then the last 5% is sometimes racking your brain of, how does that work again? And then ending up in a DM with someone being like, yeah, okay, I'm not going crazy. This is how it works.
Yep. I think I've had 1 or 2 questions where I've had to ask Jeremy, like at events. Like, I'm like, am I thinking about this correctly? And sometimes you just need to do that. If you're like one of 2 judges at an event, sometimes you just need to pull in a third brain and like combine your brain cells together to form 3 brain cells and answer a question that way.
And
Sometimes you just have
these
to.
guys
I will say,
more than one brain cell.
there's nothing wrong with being wrong at an event.
Yep.
The issue is when you're wrong at the event and then you double down when you're shown that you're wrong.
Yes. Biggest thing is learning to figure out that you need to learn and adapt.
80% of the time, players just want an answer, something to go on, so that they don't have to butt heads with their opponent over it. Because it'd be like, Jeremy said this. I'm just going to go with this. I don't think it's right, but we'll talk afterwards.
Yep. And then we're going to move to the next question, which is from Tom, which is, why is Napoleon Dynamite such a polarizing movie? How long ago was Napoleon Dynamite released at this point?
I'm going to get psychic damage from this, aren't I?
Probably.
20 years ago.
So 20 years ago.
Holy shit, really?
I don't think this movie is polarizing anymore.
I don't think it is either.
I don't think it was
came
even...
out June 11th, 2004.
There
Man,
were probably
that was-
players at Pyra younger than that.
I wouldn't be surprised to
No.
learn that Innis
There was a guy on
younger
the Dutch team that was 17, Anthony.
than that. Oh, no. All right, we're
As
going to
in
go on to the next
2000 as in
question.
born in 2007.
This is hurting my feelings too much, and I can't. Bryn asks, assuming GW sees the crash of World Eaters, what needs to be corrected come next data slate? Points or just favor?
Nothing.
What crash?
So I mean, the faction definitely fell off. Like, people that are normal folk that aren't me are definitely having a struggle and doing a time. Like, you could probably just reverse the points and it would be fine. It was like kind of rude that they stabbed them in the points for no reason. Like
Stab them
Like-
in the points.
Like, it just was so stupid. It was like all the changes. You're like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. You fix most of the problems. Oh, by the way, fuck you, lose 80 points. Like, why? Why? What the fuck? Yeah, like the list as it plays fine. Like, this is the problem with this is I, as the World Eater player, will almost certainly never play Custodes. If I play against Custodes during this balance window, one of my pairings guys fucked up. So, but like, I, as a person that's looking to go to play a singles event, like, I would think, World Leaders are in a much worse spot, right? I don't really know what you do to fix that. I think it's honestly not so much a World Leaders problem as it is a Custodes existence problem. And that is what it is. I think you kind of just accept that fate when you play something as skewed as World Leaders, that you're going to have a matchup in out there that fucking blows. To the extent to which it blows is definitely something that is more obnoxious than like armies that like melee skew armies that I've taken in the past. I've definitely been, a man with a bad matchup or two before, but this is like really egregious. I don't know. There's not really a whole lot to really fix. Like, I think if you fixed World Leaders in such a way that they could beat current Custodes, they would just be fucked. So you probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I don't know how you make World Leaders players stand behind walls when you sold them a line of fantasy that's run at your opponent.
Yeah.
Unlucky.
Preston now asks, how you doing? How are
Pretty
you
good.
doing, Jeremy?
I don't know anymore. I've got a
All
GT
right.
this weekend that I'm anxious about. That's the gist of it all right now. So I'm just like, I finished painting. I'm gonna put some transfers on this army, and we're just gonna hope that the plan works.
How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing great. I'm looking at playing Blood Angels this weekend for the first time since
Ooh.
2020.
You playing Olivia's list or something more interesting?
Something similar. Olivier's list is sweet. It's
I
fun.
know.
Subtly rolling Olivier onto the bus.
Dude,
Just
I
Olivier's
like
rolling
Olivier's
him
list.
under it.
Yeah, it's Sons of Sanguinius, I'm pretty sure. I'm going back and forth between if I want to play Gladius or Sons, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be Sons. I haven't gotten to play Gladius or a Land Raider Redeemer at all this edition. So I'm definitely playing with the Land Raider. There are no Inceptors, but I do have Scouts. There's Foot Death Company and regular Death Company. That part seems fun. I have a Sanguinor. Like, it looks really fun. I just have to decide if I'm playing. The list is literally point for point, like the exact same. It's just if I'm playing Gladius or if I'm playing Sons.
I keep looking at it. I'm like, I get why this is Sons, but I also think this would just be as fun in Gladius.
I mean, the difference between the Death Company having 40 and 30 attacks or 20 and 15 is pretty significant.
Yeah, I know.
And
But also,
strength
there's
10
advance in
versus
charge and not
strength
advance in
8.
charge.
You're usually you have Lance on either of those sides of the equation. It doesn't super matter. They're like their actual strength characteristics kind of fake. But I guess in a world where you don't have wound rolls, maybe it matters more. I don't know.
And it's sorry, keep going, Anthony. I thought you were done for some reason.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I don't a bunch of these fucking, like, these stupid ball predators having advance and shoot just like on the data sheet is real silly, so it makes me feel like I don't need Gladius, but
Well, it's also funny because it only works against infantry.
Yeah, but I'm basically playing Blood Angels and not World Leaders because I'm worried about Custodes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm basically just here to hate fuck Custodes.
Yeah, the funny thing that we had discovered is that if you go Dev Doctrine and Gladius, you still can only shoot infantry when you advance with the Ball Predator.
Yeah, there's big oversight hours when it comes to that. I got really excited yesterday because I thought you could put Dante and a Sanguinary Priest into a unit of Sanguinary Guard, and then read the rule again and was just fucking depressed. That unit was so cool for the 10 minutes I thought it worked.
Why does that not work?
Because you can add captain models that can join Assault Intercessors or whatever to Sanguinary Guard. Not anything. So you can't put a Sanguinary Priest with a jump pack into Sanguinary Guard at all. Dante being there or not does not matter. If you could, that unit would be very strong. But yeah.
And then Innes, how are you doing?
Dude, my voice hurts so much. And I'm just not giving it any break because I can't, which sucks.
Fuck them.
Yeah, a little bit. No, I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying playing Warhammer a bunch. I've got so many cool lists I want to try
As Innes dies,
that I didn't get to because I was playing Necrons a bunch. So, you know, we're looking forward to stuff. Having a good time.
The next question is from Jake B, which is, why won't Games Workshop let big bugs be barbarous and beefy beasts? I bemoan being bound to baby boops and benign bops.
That was amazing.
That was well done.
I can read questions. It's a skill. I won't lie. I don't think Games Workshop likes monsters like at all.
Look, that's
specific monsters. They like specific monsters a lot. Like the Avatar and the Incarn. They like those a lot.
Exocrines and Maleceptors are pretty good.
I would like it so much if the average turreted monster was a little bit better in combat than a turreted warrior from last edition. But, you know, we just don't get to live in that world. So
I just want tank shocking monsters. Is that too much to
play
ask?
Crusher, bro.
I know, but I don't want to play Crusher.
Nobody does.
Exactly. McWhirp asks a second question, which is, why do sisters seem to go down in play rate and up in win rate every week? Where are all the bandwagoners? That army is too hard to hobby to bandwagon.
That army is too goddamn expensive.
That army's
Also-
boring and it's played by nerds.
Ow.
Ooh.
Jeremy, are you saying you're not a nerd?
No, but I feel seen.
In a bad way.
The boring side that I take.
Oh, I see. I mean, I will be honest. I think 30 arcoflagellants is like the most boring thing to play into because you're like, okay, we're gonna see if you can roll 4 up feel no pains into my damage 3 guns for a while, I guess.
Still better
I
than
really enjoy.
Custodes.
Sorry, Anthony, go for it.
I just said still better than Custodes.
I really enjoy when I play against a sisters player and we're like even-ish on time for like the first turn and a half, and then turn 2 hits, they charge with 20 arcoflagellants, and I'm 35 minutes ahead. It's
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah, that happens when you don't pre-count dice.
It happens when you do pre-count dice. I have to help my opponent. Like I get bored watching them. I go and pull out their 6s for them because I get bored otherwise.
I
I
had clock issues with that army, but okay.
I think I just missed the boat. I think I was just not looking at being army diverse at the right time when sisters were cool, and now they're real lame.
Yeah, they'll have a book in a few months. Maybe they'll be cool then.
Maybe
It's true. I think
it's the
that
same
army
thing.
is-
Maybe
I'm
they'll get an
willing
uppy
to
downy
sold.
detachment.
Oh, stop! Why?
Please don't. No more uppy downy.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I am willing to be
No.
sold on sisters, Custodes, and demons for my next army. Any of those can work.
Demons aren't selling you, bro. That's not happening.
Not
with this
yet.
book.
I love the way that the sisters models look, and can never get myself to want to paint them because it looks like an army that would take forever to paint well.
It's a slog. I'm usually pretty quick at painting up armies, and this sister's army is going to take me months to finish.
All right, the next question is from Dan F, who asks, Innis, what is the trigger phrase to make Ben and Brian throw against England? I heard they could use the help.
We're saving it for WGC.
Okay. Dave J. Mac asks, did Custodes get so hot post-late the dashboard combusted? No, the dashboard's there, but Cliff may have combusted from happiness.
Phrasing.
The last question from no, I'm not going to fix it. Is Chris, given the rise of the Dark Angel Stormraven lists, what would you say are their worst matchups? Things to be careful of.
Dude, D cannons suck so much to play into with that army.
Yep.
Thousand Suns is funny.
Guard is miserable a decent amount of the time if they're playing Creed, which some people aren't for some reason, but they really should be. T-Suns is not that bad.
And then, Anthony, we have a question just for you between threads, so I don't know why I'm asking it, but Paul asks, "'Twas Hog at first crank. What is Anthony's dream play style for Emperor's Children 10th edition Codex? I want to believe."
Emperor's Children are like my soft, sweet baby angels. They're the only army I tolerate guns in, besides Harley's. So some like advance shoot noise blaster nonsense would be just give me the 9th book back. Their 9th book was fucking sick. I'd play that again. Throw Armor of Contempt in there as a strat and call it a day.
Right. And now we're moving into this week's questions.
Oh man, could you imagine how fucked up Emperor's Children would be if their like army ability was ignore mods?
I would love it. That would be great. I love it. The Horus Heresy Cacophony are such beautiful models and would make such great 40k noise marines.
They're so sick.
I mean, just get us those in plastic. Done.
Yep.
All right. Now, this is a question that I also have, which is from Sam, and is, what is Choco Dice, and how does one play this game?
Go and watch the Liar's Dice scene in Parts of the Caribbean. It's a long-form multiplayer version of that.
Yep.
I like it. Maybe we'll find a link and put it in the show notes or something. For you
No,
guys
they should
find.
have to do their homework.
Okay.
Or come to a
and it
team
says-
tournament that we're at and we'll teach you.
There you go.
Pretty
Jeremy
guaranteed
doesn't
to
have a
play at the
We
end
question.
did
of
play
any of
Choco Dice
us.
this weekend, didn't we? Because we played it for a table for room choice.
It was important. Yeah.
I was going to say, I was worried that we hadn't played it at any point, but we did.
My favorite is the between comment from Jeremy, which is just, oh no.
It's, oh
Then
no, because he posted it in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And then Ethan asks, how does Anthony feel about single-handedly causing world eaters to never get buffs again? LMFAO.
Look, I would love to live in a world where my army that is already pretty good got better, but I guess we don't live there. I am hoping that my lack of participation in singles means that the Games Workshop Eye of Sauron goes somewhere else for a little while.
We're all going to be in Josh's DMs, just reminding him every week.
Why would you do that? Leave Josh alone. Don't message Josh anything.
The
No,
next
Josh,
question
Josh
is
is
from,
too occupied telling us that they're keeping an eye on Necrons as he crushes event after event with 18 race.
Crushes his boss specifically or whatever. That shit was hilarious.
Round one.
that was the funniest pairing.
Yeah.
For anyone out of context, Brewhammer was this weekend. A bunch of GW employees were in attendance, including Josh and Stu from the Warhammer 40k studio. And Josh played Stu round one and beat him 100-15.
Stu.
Scoring 5 points in a game is real unlucky.
Stu then went on to
Unlucky.
win his next 2 games.
But they weren't against Necrons.
I don't remember.
Oh no, we're not tracking it that closely. Tim the Weird Boy asks, no, seriously, WTF is up with the snaz wagons? We answered this question. It's because it has a bunch of keywords and is reasonable at doing random things.
Yeah, much like Gaunt's Ghost, it grows keywords when you look away and look back.
Man, I've played with Gaunt's Ghost a few times and I just stopped doing most of their guns because it's like, I don't know, man. There are like 50 profiles in here. I'm just gonna roll the auto cannon and the sniper rifle.
Carbine profiles for some goddamn reason.
That's why you roll the auto cannon and the sniper rifle, and then you stop.
People discovering the damage on that sniper rifle is my favorite bit.
I have fired it at multiple technomancers just for the funnies of it, and it does just occasionally pop a technomancer for funsies.
I was popping biologus putrefiers out of armies.
Really, any character. Most characters are like 4 wounds or less. You can just remove a character with it. All right. Frank asks, Blood Angel's Sons had 3 lists to go X and 1 this past weekend after being a bottom tier faction / detachment. What do you think their ceiling, in quotation marks, could be in the greater Marine super faction? Could Sons Death Company end up being better than Sword Bros and Melee?
To answer that second part just really fast, no. But to the rest of that, Blood Angels are just good. Like they're unique. Marines don't have good melee units. That's like their only weakness right now. If you play one of the unique chapters with good melee units, you cover like most of the problem. And that's it. Also, the way Blood Angels cover the Marine melee weakness is with a unit that doesn't need oaths, which is just like a whole bunch of boxes that Marines are really excited about.
Are you taking Lamarties in that Death Company unit for like
I have
3 rolls and -1 damage?
I have 3 Death Company units. One of them has Lamartes in it. Yes.
Okay. I was just
Death
curious.
Company units natively reroll, by the way. You don't need
Yeah,
Lamarties for that.
he gives them lethal.
Lethal hits
You give them
and
-1 damage.
Yeah, you said -1 damage already though.
Yeah.
The other thing that's important for Blood Angel's recent surge of success, though I'm not sure how much this is like common knowledge yet. The change to the way like fighting on death units works is really important for foot Death Company, who get sustained 1 when they're below starting strength or sustained 2 when they're below half. Now when a unit dies and fights in death, it fights as if the whole unit is dead. So the whole unit fights on death with sustained 2. So you can charge those 10 dudes like face first into Custodes. Weird that I'm playing Blood Angels this weekend. And be like, would you like to fight first and die horrifically? Or would you like to not fight first and die horrifically? Which of these
Notably as well, you can't -1 damage a fight on death because you were never targeted by a unit.
Yeah.
So you would actually take more damage by fighting first, but you would at least deal with the unit on the front side.
Yeah.
The upside being the Death Company might be dead.
Yeah,
maybe.
Or you have to start. They actually are able to force a trade-off onto Custodes, where you don't otherwise generally get to do that.
You don't even get to play the game against them normally. Also, they all have Inferno pistols, which I've melted too, which is pretty hot in the Custodes.
It is funny as well, actually. Just
1 per box, by the way, GW.
Yeah. I mean, my
box,
Death Company on foot this weekend are going to be Corn Berserkers, so...
my favorite. The second question that Frank asks is for Black Templars Ironstorm builds. Do you think the rest of the field shifting to focus on killing Catan and Custodes means that vehicle spam lists might have to give way to a more mixed arms style list? Or do you think you still spam vehicles and just try to kill anti-tank before it kills
Dude,
you?
make me change it.
Yeah. it
Until
hasn't-
somebody proves you have to. No, I'm not changing shit.
Reasonable. Go ahead, Anthony. Did you have
Yeah, I
something?
just don't think there's much of a reason to change for the Ironstorm list. That list is like classic European gunhammer, baby. It does the thing. It shoots the bullets at the people.
It just does its job.
Yep.
And then Sam Lemon asks a question, which is, if the barrier of entry regarding financial cost of acquiring a competitive 40k army or collection was lower, i.e. $200 for 2,000 points, how much of an improvement would you foresee this to be for the competitive environment?
I mean,
I think-
printing armies, it's already pretty close to that level.
Yeah. I think most of the barrier to competitive 40k entry is people's mental. Like,
And also a small degree hobby. Like the amount of time it takes to get an army on the table is not nothing.
I think that the unseen cost of competitive 40k that people don't talk about very often is traveling and hotel and then entry fees and time.
Entry fees are almost nothing when you compare
Like
it to
the entry
everything else.
fees are like the small beans on top, but like in the United States at least, where you have to travel very far to get, and Canada, I'll give it to Canada also. You
Even
have
in
to
the
travel.
UK.
all of Canada's events are in like
You
one
have to
circle.
travel like pretty far if you want.
It's
to
like a
get to
10-hour drive end to end.
It takes a long time to travel to places, and it can be expensive because you have to fly to places,
And also
and
days
then
off
get
work
hotels
and
days
all
off
that
work.
good stuff.
And like those costs are not just monetary, but also like other kinds of capital have to go into those. Like if you are married and you have kids, there are like other forms of capital that go into competitive 40k and like going to lots of events. But yes, if you could reduce the barrier for entry into the model end of 40k, you would probably see more people, and more people is good. Like TTS having no barrier for entry did increase the number of people playing competitive 40k, and you've seen that in the
But it gave us
post-pandemic
NOS.
world.
Isn't that just net negative?
It also gave us Liam.
Yeah, I'll take
That's
it.
why I said what I said.
Damn it.
I think both of those are good additions to the
Liam
community.
is.
I like Nas.
Liam found me after every round and told me my army was shit at Pyro.
I
To
love
be fair,
that
he was
for
doing the
you.
same to Sako, so I think he was just hoping that he would be right half the time.
Yeah.
All right, the next question is from Bryn because we have so many more questions to get through.
Skip forward, actually. That we just answered
Oh.
that exact question. He just reposted from last week.
Sure. All right, Derek asks, now that it's had some time to nest, is there anything you were initially negative on with the data slate that you now see being all right or positive?
Probably, but I already have forgotten what was in the slate.
I think that the Eldar nerfs were more effective than I actually anticipated them being originally when I saw them. Like,
I still feel they didn't go far enough, but maybe they actually were.
I honestly didn't think they were going to be effective at all originally seeing them. Like, I was like, okay, so I don't know. I can
weird
still.
that people have like just abandoned spinners. I still think that's wild, but
that data sheet is very expensive now.
it's
It's really good.
I
It is
think it's
still
not. I still
very
think it's
good.
not expensive enough.
At 210 points, I still had two of them in every list that I was putting together, and I brought them two things.
There are people still running 3 and 3 support platforms.
I
That's
actually
good
don't.
points,
fine.
though.
I don't think decannons are good like at all. I think that
I would like that to be the prevalent mentality because they are the saddest thing in the world to play against an Ironstorm player. So yes, please go out, be married, don't play
Watched an
decannons.
Ironstorm player try to kill a D cannon for three turns in a row with a single whirlwind.
Dude, it's the most depressing.
Quentin
Sometimes
lost,
you one-shot it, sometimes they fake dice.
yeah. Quentin lost one to just Trajan's gun twice.
Nice. I love it. I actually have a question. How did that Scathach do?
Really well.
Okay. That
we
thing
talk
should
about-
not be good.
Can we pause for a second and talk about the Scathach Wraith Knight? Because
All
I
right.
think that's amusing.
All
Anthony,
right.
can
I'm
you
gonna
tell us
pull up the
about this
data sheet.
Scathach?
And I'm gonna ask Nathan, do you know how much this unit costs?
like 475 points or something
So
like
I'm
that.
gonna list off what it has on its data sheet.
For what it's worth, this unit would be bad in literally every army. It's only good because of the Wayleaper and Fire and Fade.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. So in standard loadout, you take 2 Inferno Lances. They're each melt to 2, 4 shots, hit on 3, strength 12, AP 4, D6 damage, 24 inch range. So 12 inches to get melta. There's 2 of them, so you can split. You'll fill out the other reroll. Deadly D6, Deep Strike, and then Agile, so it can move over things that are 4 inches or shorter without penalty. And then the Webway Shunt generator is that once per battle at the end of your opponent's turn, if it's not within engagement range, you can pop it up and put it into Strat Reserves, which then means you can then Deep Strike it anywhere on the table in your turn. You can also do this turn 1 if you want to. Not saying it's necessarily a good thing to do. It is 18 wounds with a 2-up save and T12.
What's its movement characteristic?
Moves 10 inches.
Okay.
And it is 490 points.
490. Okay.
I
can see why that would be good with Fire and Fade.
It's hilarious with Fire and Fade. Oh, and it has Towering, which is the biggest part of this, because on almost every board that you end up playing on, there is a middle ruin that you can toe into and then Fire and Fade out of. And just ruin people's days with it.
Is that the gist, Anthony?
That's basically the idea. Like, it shoots good enough. It, can be swingy on if it kills something or not. I think it's really good. I think it requires a really specific type of pilot for it to be good. I think if the list is not played like fairly aggressively, if you're not comfortable with losing a lot of your assets over the game to score and do things, then it's a lot less interesting.
So Jonathan Betteridge, one of the 16 for Team Canada, took it to AGT out in Halifax this weekend, 40 odd people, and went undefeated with the Scadak. So, and then obviously Quentin Johnson also took it for Team USA at Pyra.
Yep. All right, now we're going to move on. Alex E asked a question. Going to an 8-man teams event, my first teams event this weekend. What do y'all think guards' best matchups are, worst matchups? I've got my opinions, but wanted to see what more experienced players had to say. I've played guard for a while, but mostly just RTTs. Edit, I've tried to join the military. Does that mean I'm minus 10 points in every game?
No, you're extra battle ready because you put your charge on the military. That's how that works. You get parade ready instead of battle ready.
Mm-hmm. So what are guards'
guards'
good and bad matchups?
I don't think guard has like a direct just this matchup is bad, except like maybe Vanguard Marines.
GSE is
Vanguard Marines.
No, Vanguard Marines will beat the shit out of guard. That doesn't, you don't even have to be great at Vanguard to win that matchup. But that's like it. That's literally the only one I can think of off the top of my head.
Necrons can be a little sketchy for some builds, like depending how far you go into. Like Canoptic Court is not great for guard generally. Hypercrypt is pretty doable.
Satans in general, I think, kind of suck for guard because they rely on a lot of D6 damage or like 3 damage that then, sometimes you shoot your entire army into a Void Dragon and do 2 wounds.
Yeah. I've had a whole guard army shoot a Catan and do 1 damage to a Void Dragon, basically. It's quite depressing.
Consistently lose a Catan to a single tank commander, but other than that. Nas says Hypercrypt sucks, everything else is fine.
The next couple of questions are Gene Stealer Cult questions. John asks, so guys, weekly GSC question, do they have a role in teams? What are the matchups you would avoid pairing them into? Do they have a team's skew build?
I'll let you know once Myson submits a build for your trash.
Yeah. We're going to find out if he's trolling or trying.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one list at Pyra says no, but maybe they do.
Okay. The next question is from Gabe C. Hi, heart emoji. I will also submit my GSC question. So analyzing GSC data is difficult, small sample size, no real coherent lists, and the most competitive player base has largely dropped them in favor of other armies. How would you go about analyzing their data?
Jeremy, be more careful with where you crop the questions next.
That's not me. That's YouTube doing that automatically because I hit the character
So-
limit. I'm not paying attention.
The answer to that question is you have to do it carefully because the small sample size does lead to misinterpretation of the data. When you're dealing with factions with smaller meta representation, you just have to be wary of the fact that when you're looking at that data, you are looking at a small sample size, so make sure to like couch all of the assumptions you make in that. That's just from a data analytics perspective. There should be enough data at this point from GSC that you can probably get like at least a reasonable picture of how they're doing into various things, but you should just grain of salt it. Question two is,
according to this, it's pretty ass.
yeah. And then so question 2 is, I want to follow in your guys' footsteps and grab me one of those golden tickaroos. I'm going to have a limited amount of GTs I can attend this year, so I want to make them count. What's your best advice for me? I have kiddo number 3 coming any day now, so time will be a bit limited, LOL, but I play when I can via TTS.
Get
In
a
Canada?
coach. Both of those work.
You want to
There you
each
go.
repeat your answer one at a time? Ennis, what was your advice?
Move to Canada.
And then I said, get a coach.
Both are very good things. We're still trying to grasp it, but yeah, I'm come to a Canadian event is what I'm going to say.
have so
The
many
event this
golden
weekend
tickets.
has 80 people and 3 tickets. All is Dust, which is in 3 weeks, has 60 people and 4 tickets. Berry Bash, which is not this weekend upcoming, but the weekend afterwards, has 2 or 3 tickets and it's 80 people. Canhammer Team Tournament, which is sold out, so I can't really tell you to come there, has 8 tickets up for grabs to the winning team.
As a
Fine, it's-
general like additional side, later season events are much easier to get tickets at usually because a lot of people that are more invested in the scene will already have them. So if you do sort of like, I would say like that post WTC season is probably the easiest time to find a ticket. It's obviously very late in the day in terms of like planning and organization, but it's also the most reliable time to get it because all the WTC players have stopped playing a bit because they're burnt out. Like most of them, not all of them, obviously. Most people who like really were tryharding singles have already got their tickets. Like you just kind of get into that like little bit of the meta where you're just a little bit more likely to be able to catch it at the right time. And that's really all it
Perfect
is.
example of that. Capital City Bloodbath this year gave out, I believe it was 3 or 4 tickets, and the last ticket went to the person who placed 14th.
Dang. There you go. Ben has the next question, which is a food-related question, of course, which is, what monsters or creatures would be the best for making food out of in the 40K universe? Pulled fruit barbecue sandwiches sound like they could be a hit.
That's a sentient being, Ben. Jesus.
I'm on board. Fuck Groot.
Everybody knows that the humble guardsman is the best food in the 41st millennium in the
Corpse
form of
starch.
corpse starch.
I was going to say the Grox. There's already a monster that apparently tastes just like cow, and it's the Grox. Just eat that, guys. Just eat
Do
that.
cows still exist in the 41st millennium?
No, they're all Grox, which are like half reptilian.
So how do we know that they
creatures.
taste like cow?
It says in the lore. Look, I don't write the books for Black Library. They just do the thing, and you
No,
accept it.
Though I bet you could.
You bet you could. All right. The next one is that's not a question. Nick K asks, what do you think of Galanka's Tyranid list? I don't know what Galanka's Tyranid list is or who Galanka is.
It's the 60 gargoyles swarm list that has the like the 6 monster cord, the triple X green, double Maliceptor, and a Trynd effects. It's fine.
Dude, we
does
don't even
the
need
job.
to answer this question. The list did really well at Pyra. Go listen to him talk. Go read him talking about it in the Patreon Discord. He
Yep.
gave us like a dissertation on that. Or you could also read Pumbaa's 2,000-word essay on Death Garden teams while you're there, which was super enlightening.
There you go. The next question is also from Nick K, which is related to the above question. Is there any hope for NIDS and singles?
I mean, Nids can kill Custodies.
Slates in 3 months. Slates in 2 months.
Yeah.
All right. And then Luke has the next question, which is, has Anthony more recently watched Napoleon Dynamite or played Blood Angels? And one of the before you answer this question, Anthony, the first time I ever talked to Anthony was in the Art of War Discord, where his name tag was Anarian and he was super hype about Blood Angels.
Yeah.
That was the first time I ever interacted with Anthony without knowing him at all. And it was way funny to watch him go from
Back when he was fun.
the guy in Blood Angels chat talking
That's
about
right.
Blood Angels to Team USA member.
Vice captain. Yeah.
Remember
Yeah, I remember him
the-
talking about
remember
really
PWS?
shitty Blood Angel lists.
Dude, my Blood Angel lists were good. Fuck you. I was
I just was recently reminded of that in my brain because I was like, man, because I looked at Anthony's actual handle in Discord and I was like, oh, Anthony was that guy who was
That's right.
there when I was first getting into competitive 40K and talking to in the
Yeah.
Art of War 40K.
dude, the first like 5 events I won were as Blood Angels. That army was awesome.
But yeah, back to the question. More recently, Napoleon Dynamite or Blood Angels?
It's Blood Angels, it's not even close.
Yeah, I figured as much. All right. We have a couple super chats to go through. We just finished all the Discord questions. We're going to see if we run out of steam before getting through these. The two
Push.
super chats are... Where did that come from? That's not a super chat. We're going to do super chats first, which is... Well, Magnus did nothing wrong, which is what do you think of the Death Company, Dread, Shenanigans, and Sons detachments?
I think people get really excited about wacky units when they think they work in weird ways, and you should just take good units instead.
But it is a cool, fun, wacky interaction. And if you want to do well in RTT, it's a great thing to try.
And
frankly, it's not like it's expensive. Like, if you want to put it in as a fun flex, it's not going to kill your list.
That's fair.
And the other super chat is from that one guy, which is some money for what you all do. Let's go GSC Codex sometime. Thank you.
Thanks,
for your
John.
super chat. All right, I'm going to unstar these now. Jeremy, take us to the top, which is from Peyton Celestine. Anthony, your thoughts on the new World Eaters shooting meta with re-rolling hits Lord of Skulls near Ankron. I actually did this at an RTT and made a Custodians player very depressed when the Lord of Skulls re-rolled all hits on his guns.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It not working on turn 1 is sad.
True.
But, you know, I don't know, man. Take the murder train if you want, dude. It's not.
It's a cool model.
It looks great.
I brought one primed to an RTT, and the Custodians player who I was playing against, who normally plays World Eaters, was like, "Can I just buy that from you?" And bought the Lord of Skulls that I had with me from me at the RTT.
Hell yeah.
I was like, "Yes, that's fine. I borrowed your World Eaters army, strangely enough, to do ringer list stuff, and now I'm just playing against you. So yes, you can have it. I don't care." Celestine has another question, which is also, why are card players incapable of getting a good win percentage with good rules? It happened in 9th, and it's happening again in 10th.
They're sandbagging, so the army will be fine for WTC.
Yeah.
Maybe. Grant asks, my local guard players are actively upset about the S tier designation to the point they are actively taking bad lists. That's not a question, but is a comment about guard society in general. And that is the sandbagging that was just talked about. Did you just eliminate a bunch of questions? Because I'm like looking at them and they like a bunch went away. The next thing was at Ben McJurek. Why did you choose not to run Draxus in your list? I figured we'd star this one though, because Anthony might be able to answer. Why was Kyria Draxus not in Ben McJurek's list?
Because the agents ran our Space Marine list.
There you go. Next question's from Friend Man. In all caps, do you guys have any opinions on Chaos Demons? Thinking about starting an army, but haven't played this game for like 20 years. Before we get too far into this, I'm very impressed that you're watching our show. If you haven't played this game for like 20 years, that's awesome. Thank you for watching our show. But also demons.
They're not the army I would start with.
They're not an army I would put much hope or faith in.
I mean, they might be good eventually. They were good last edition at the end.
Yeah, demons are a very interesting army in the sense that they make you... They're very good at playing one specific type of play pattern, and there's not a lot of armies that do the game like they do. So if it's the kind of thing you enjoy, which is setting up like big charges from reserve without a ton of reliability, but with big sparkler effects when they go off, they can be quite rewarding for that. They have a lot of cool big monsters that you can paint, a bunch of different, like, when you're first getting into the game as well, or getting back into the game, Chaos Demons do this cool thing where there's 4 very different sort of like micro armies there. So if you find that you enjoy painting and playing with one different style, then you can kind of expand that into other ones, and you get a lot out of your, like, you can do a lot of different things while playing demons while still maintaining like a cohesive and usable collection together. So for that reason, they're not a terrible idea as a star army. And if you branch out future into like playing other chaos armies, for the time being, you can use demons with them. So there's a decent bit of like back and forth there where demons can be quite fun for that. If they appeal to you on the model side of things and you're not too worried about competitive viability, give them a shot. They're not that bad.
Just don't do Space Marines, because that is the games as a live service of 40K where you're paying consistent new models kind of situation. Way asks, should an army's financial cost be considered when determining the viability of a faction?
Dude, I have bad news. Like, it's gonna cost a whole bunch of money to play this hobby competitively. Unlucky.
You could collect one meta army and play it, and it'd be good for like a month. And then you have to completely tear it apart and redo it again because
And it'll still cost less than one trip across the Atlantic.
You can definitely find, though, like a group of people and create a network of models that you share and borrow hammer with each other. If you can do that, you can do quite well. You just have to find people who are willing to do that with you.
Yeah, most of the Blood Angel list I'm taking this weekend probably won't be my stuff. It'll be my stuff from like different armies.
Every now and then, though, the caveat is you'll get an army that's not battle ready, and you'll have to leave a tournament early.
Yeah, you'll end up without backpacks.
You'll end up without backpacks. I love you, David, dearly. Alex Tausey has a question, which is, hope the plan works or hope the planes work? And I'm pretty sure this is directed at Jeremy.
Yeah, he posted that right after I said I have a plan and I hope the plan works. I don't know. They're cool models and they're Raven Wing. So
I've been explicitly told I'm not allowed to play planes at Alpine or Eurotrash.
Yep. It was me. You can say it on there.
I have Riley from Team Canada just saying, please stop. I don't want to deal with this. It's like, I don't care. I wanted to have fun at a GT. Just bring a really stupid list.
I'm going to bring in a Stress.
And then the next question is also from Alex Tausey, which is, Innis, what is the Death Company Dread interaction?
It just gets more attacks, man. It's not that cool. Whenever the Death Company gets fought, it gets to fight back. So you can charge something, not kill it, or pile into something else, get punched by that thing, punch it back, pile into something else. It requires your opponent to be incredibly stupid, really close together, or both. But you can theoretically kill an entire army in a turn if your opponent's terrible.
And then the last question.
It also, I think the strat for 6-inch consolidation works on the Dread, which gives it a little more reach in Sons of Sanguinius.
And then the last question.
That's what I was looking for.
Probably Coco. How do you feel about Tau for singles? Maybe it's just my smooth brain, but they don't spark joy when I look at current possible pairings.
They're aggressively fine.
We didn't take them because Ganyo got a single-digit number twice in practice, and we were like, if Ganyo can't make this work, then maybe not right now.
Riptides are pretty cool, and Plasma Crisis make you a little less vulnerable to bleeding Brigade down. They're fine. They're middle of the pack, and it's okay for an army to be middle of the pack.
Yeah, some
Tau's like
with good skill will do really well. Some players who pretend to be really good with good data sheets do really well with them.
I think the one thing to consider is that they also have a codex and new models coming soon-ish.
I can't wait until all time players have to learn the fight phase as they play crew armies.
Dude, I hope only the crew detachment is viable. I don't even care if it's OP.
That will make me so amused at how upset some weeb
Tau is now
anime battlesuit people. Look, I'm here for it. And that is the last question. I'm not doing any more questions. Y'all are out of questions for this evening because we're about to hit 2 hours and I've had enough. No, get out of here, Tausey. No questions.
Banned.
Yeah, you're banned from asking questions for the rest of this episode. You can ask them next week. Thank you everybody for watching this for all cast member episode of Stat Check. This has been episode 80 of Stat Check, competitively metastabilized. Damn it, Tausey. I've been Nathan. The rest of my co-hosts have been Jeremy, Innis, and Anthony. go check the show notes for all of the plugs, or go back to the 1 hour mark and listen to Jeremy do the plugs if you really like listening to people do the plugs, because I'm not going to do them again and I don't feel like it. And you can't make me. No. I hope you all have a wonderful
gravel next week.
I hope you all have a wonderful week. We will see you next Tuesday on the same YouTube channel at this same time. Bye-bye. Somebody who's not